So if you're thinking your life sucks, think about this for a second. In the medieval ages, there were people whose jobs were to clean up literal crap off the ground that fell from 100 feet in the air from some castle after some royal bastard decided to drop a fat deuce. Yup, that was a thing. They were called gong farmers. The job title itself sounds like something you'd hear from an OnlyFans job posting. Let's explore a day in the life of a gong farmer, or we should say night, because they weren't allowed to work during the day, only from the hours from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. No one wanted to see or run into some dude hauling tons of human crap all throughout the town for everyone to see and smell. Since they only worked at night, they were often known as nightmen, which makes you think of a superhero, but whereas a real superhero would be fighting crime, the only thing a gong farmer would be fighting was the urge to not projectile vomit while digging shit out of a cesspit that could have been sitting there stagnant for months on end. They weren't very social people also, probably not by choice, but because for obvious reasons. Smelling like crap being number one, but beyond that, they were considered lowly people, even though it was believed that they were paid pretty well. I mean, there would have to be some sort of incentive to do what they did, and nothing motivates people to do things that they normally would not do unless there's money involved. If you don't believe me, just ask the people on P. Diddy and Epstein's victim list. Just kidding, but seriously, they were allowed to live in only specified areas, probably because they smelled like sweaty asshole that had just spent an hour sharding after a night of binge eating at Taco Bell. Gong farmers usually employed a couple of young boys to lift the full buckets of ordure out of the pit and to work in confined spaces. What a wonderful way to spend your childhood nights, working for a dude that picks up medieval crap for a living and getting paid nothing on the other end. Thank you boys for putting in an honest hard day's work. Here's a loaf of bread you get to take home to your family who's probably dying from the Black Plague or some famine.
Can't find my checkbook. Hope you don't mind I pay you in change.
It's like $1 an hour.
Nothing like a nice loaf of bread with the flavor of diarrhea to share with 15 people at night. All of the human waste farmed had to be removed from the town or city where it was collected, either by spreading it on common land or by transporting it to lay stalls, which were usually on the edge of town. Much of the contents of London's cesspits were taken to dumps on the banks of the River Thames, such as the appropriately named Dung Wharf. Later the site of the Mermaid Theatre, from which it was transported by barge to be used as fertilizer on fields or market gardens. Some of the dumps became quite massive. Mount Pleasant, in present-day Clerkenwell, London, occupied an area of 7.5 acres by 1780. Oh, and if you got caught disposing of the crap in an unapproved way, you'd wish that you'd had just been fired, but instead, the penalties of not disposing of waste properly would result in public humiliation. One London gong farmer who poured crap down a drain was put in one of his own pipes filled up to his neck with crap before being publicly displayed in Golden Lane with a sign detailing his crime. Some other gong farmers also died while on the job. One notable incident occurred in 1326 when a guy named Richard the Raker fell into a cesspit whose ceiling had rotted away and drowned while collecting the feces. I mean, there were some other crappy jobs in medieval times, but this one has to easily take the cake. All of this probably makes you wonder what the hell a medieval toilet would even look like that would require a godforsaken job like this. So let's explore the medieval toilet. These so-called toilets would be something only royalty got to enjoy, so of course this would create a need for crap cleaners around the castle walls. For those familiar with an outhouse, the medieval toilet is its massive stone-built predecessor. Medieval toilets were nothing more than a literal hole in the wall that led to a latrine or castle moat below like 100 feet in the air sometimes. Ideally, of course, crap would simply fall into a river when no one had to deal with it, and some castle toilets were built hanging over a steep cliff, allowing for that to happen. There were a couple different designs for these so-called bathrooms, though. Whoever didn't hire an idiot to build the bathrooms when designing the castle probably had more of an ideal system that didn't require removing the crap manually, dealing with it later. The waste shaft of some medieval toilets ran down the outside of the castle walls and into moats or rivers, where it would go downstream. Pretty convenient. While others were designed with internal castle channels that funneled the crap into a courtyard or cesspit that would actually have to be cleaned after it got filled. Other styles would just have holes stuck out of the walls with a huge opening where the literal shit would fall from the top of the castle and onto the ground. Usually a wooden bench separated the stone carved hole from the user's rear hole. Without that luxury, there had to be someone tending to the crap, removing it, and making sure it was properly mixed with the surrounding moat. The largest downside to medieval toilets was the fact that there was almost no practical way to avoid the stench. which, yes, probably smelt not good. So I return back to the original question. If you think your life sucks, well, it probably doesn't suck as bad as it could. For the most part, anyway.